Hello students, Mr. Yonder here. Welcome to today's lesson, Chapter 14, Lesson 1. So today's lesson is about new inventions. Many of these inventions had significant impacts on how the North would become different from the South. We had industrialization, which we already learned about a little bit, but we also have new inventions like the telegraph and the railroad. Choo-choo! It'll load eventually. There we go. So, there were some phases of industrialization. Before factories became prevalent, it took a long time to make goods. For example, a woman would have to spin thread, weave that thread into cloth, and then cut and sew the fabric just to make one article of clothing. So making everything from scratch took a lot of time. Imagine building a cart at your house from parts, like maybe in your garage or driveway. It would take weeks, if not months. And some old guys, when they're rebuilding like an old muscle car, it takes them years. If we had to build our own cars, basically no one would have any cars. So that's what people were working with back then, although not as complicated as cars. Then here comes factories, producing goods quicker and cheaper. The industrialization of the North occurred in 3 stages. In phase 1, employers divided the jobs into smaller steps. For example, spinning the thread is now one person's job. They're not doing all the parts, they're just spinning the thread, and then the next person will turn that thread into cloth, and then the next person does the sewing. And so they do one job, and that's all they do, and they get really good at it. They're now specialized at that specific task, like making thread, spinning thread. Phase 2 was bringing all the workers together at a place called a factory, so now you had a bunch of people together in the same big place doing the same job that they are now specialized at. This makes things faster. Phase 3 was introducing machines to the process, which work even faster than human hands. So now you have people coming together with their machines. They're still specialized, and they're making goods faster and cheaper. So those were the 3 phases. The role of people essentially began to use the machines to make the good. The mass production of cloth began in New England in the early 1800s. In 1846, Elias Howe invented the sewing machine. Oh, that's the wrong kind of sewing. And now clothes could be made from the cloth much faster. So now everything's getting pretty fast. Clothing is a typical example used when talking about the birth of factories, but the increased efficiency in the production of goods, basically as a result of things like specialization in machines. This was mirrored in other industries as well, like we talked about gun manufacturing and interchangeable parts and things like that. Let's move over to transportation. Between 1800 and 1850, better transportation options helped industry. New canals and roads moved people and goods faster. We talked about the first successful steamboat, the Clermont, in a previous chapter. By the 1840s, canals were being redug to be deeper and wider to accommodate, steamboats. They initially weren't big enough to hold steamboats. By 1860, there were over 3,000 steamboats traveling on American rivers, canals, and lakes. In the 1840s, a new type of sailboat was actually created. They had tall sails and sleek hulls. They could travel as fast as a steamship. These so-called clipper ships could clip or shorten the travel time between the United States and Britain from about 30 to 15 days. That's twice as fast. That's pretty fast. Here's a clipper ship right here. A lot of sails on there. Railroads. The first trains ran very short distances, maybe from a mine to a nearby river. And horses actually pulled the carts on these first trains. Now, the first steam-powered locomotives were used in Britain in 1829. The first locomotives being steam-powered were initially somewhat dangerous. It doesn't talk about this in your book, but because they ran on steam, and that involves hot pressurized water, explosions did occur. As I mentioned, they had a tendency to explode. The Tom Thumb was the first American steam-powered locomotive. It was made in 1830 and actually lost a race to a horse-drawn cart when its engine failed. As technology improved, however, more locomotives were used, more track was laid, and by 1860 there was 31,000 miles of track and the U.S. connecting major cities, transportation, and supply routes. So canals, steamships, clipper ships, and railroads all helped move people and goods faster and cheaper. It was cheaper to transport goods and therefore cheaper for people to buy. All this increased transportation helped producers and consumers. Better transportation helped people move to the western fringes of the nation. So it looks like good things all around. And here's a map. You've got rivers, roads, canals, and railroads. See a lot of things happening. All these advancements, however, did not come without a cost. There were technical failures and accidents. In 1857, the steamship Central America chugged right along into a hurricane off the coast of the Carolinas with a full load of passengers and a lot of gold, and hundreds of people drowned. There was also the Great Train Wreck of 1856, which occurred on July 15th, of 1856, when two trains ran headlong right into each other. 60 people were killed and more than 100 were injured. After this event, there were calls on the railroad industry to increase safety and accountability. Let's move to communication. People and goods were moving faster, but with these technological advancements also came faster communication. The telegraph was a device that used electrical signals to send messages. Samuel Morse invented the telegraph, and the message system used to communicate via these electric signals. It was called Morse code. It's a series of dots and dashes representing letters. By typing dots and dashes in a telegraph, messages could be sent anywhere by wire. This probably sounds a little vague and obscure in an age where you can text your friend in a second, so I added this little video to help you understand how a telegraph works. It's like the original text message. Isn't that fun? There were a few farming innovations in the 1830s that helped farmers grow crops where they could initially not. Places like the Great Plains, the grassy wasteland, where thick sod, basically all that top layer of soil and grass, it couldn't be broken by the old plow, so you can't farm it if you can't plow it, turn the soil over. The steel-tipped plow was invented by John Deere, and with this new steel-tipped plow, farmers could move to the plains or other equally agricultural, equally agriculturally undesirable lands and have a great chance at farming success. Oof, mouthful. Another new invention was the mechanical reaper and mechanical thresher. Reapers harvest grain, and threshers separate the grain from the stalk. The mechanical reaper was invented by Cyrus McCormick. He sounds like a farmer, doesn't he? He was actually an inventor and businessman. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Cyrus McCormick, not a farmer. Now, before the mechanical reaper, all that grain had to be hand cut by the device above. Looks like what the Grim Reaper carries, does it not? Except the Grim Reaper harvests lives, not grain. Mwahaha, sorry. Imagine having to cut all that grain, pictured below, by hand. It would take forever. I would rather die. Oh man, too funny. Okay, I'm done with the death jokes now. Jokes aside, the mechanical reaper, one more time. Okay, I'm done now, I promise. The mechanical reaper made harvesting grain much faster, and therefore more could be planted, and with improved transportation, it could be moved faster and cheaper. But despite these new inventions in agriculture, the North continued to become more industrialized and less agricultural. Okay, that's our lesson. A lot of jokes. Couldn't help it. For your assignment, short 5-point discussion, please answer the following question using complete sentences. Which individual do you think created the invention with the greatest impact on the nation's development, and why? You have Samuel Morse, so the telegraph, John Deere, the steel-tip plow, Cyrus McCormick, mechanical reaper. That's it. 5 points. Use complete sentences. Check your spelling and grammar. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.